Oh, good morning. Welcome to Hobby Hotline, episode number 270. We're on Bench Clear Media this morning and glad to have everybody with us. We already have a chat room kicking off very hot and heavy. Let me try to get some good mornings in here faster than I can click them. So, guys, if I miss you, check the chat room. But good morning to everybody. Want to give a shout out to the sports card shop. I know they got us on the TV, and I'm lucky enough to be joined today, and they're going to be watching. We got King NASCAR, Hall of Famer with PSA, Logan, and the legend, Dr. Beckett. How are you doing, Dr. Beckett?
Excellent.
How you doing, Logan?
Doing well. Today is solar eclipse day, by the way.
Well, let's cut right to the weather. I was going to do traffic and sports first, but give us the update. What can we expect?
Well, we can expect a solar eclipse today occurring during this show, so we will be leaving you in the dark.
Wow, I walked right into that one, I think.
Yeah, and not only that, they're calling this the Ring of Fire. So you're going to need some special glasses to block the ultraviolet light. Yeah, there you go. And you're also going to need a tube of Preparation H for the Ring of Fire. Just let you know that.
That's how we're kicking it off.
We're going to have fun today.
That's fantastic. I could use it. So one of the great things that I wanted to talk about today, because I wanted today to be super funny, is this is a true story, which is the great part of any tale. If you go to Costco.com, you can actually buy a Mickey Mantle 51 Bowman rookie card. Dr. Beckett, I have a question for you. When was the last time you went to Costco to do your card shopping?
Never.
I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Now, it's on Costco.com, to be fair, but they've got some Pele autographed jerseys, some Ronaldo, the Bowman Mantle.
Well, if it were in a regular Costco store where you had to go in and look at it and ask the person at the counter about what was perhaps under glass or under lock and key, I'm not sure about that. But if it's an online play, that we'll see. It's just that once you go online, there's a lot of opportunity for comparison shopping. And I guess, the Costco is a strong brand, but they're not known for high-end sports cards.
Logan, if 51 Bowman, what goes better, a pallet of Nutella or a couple 2 liters of Pepsi? How does that work?
Well, yeah, I think, you want to go to the store and say, hey, I'd like to, like you said, pick up a 7-pound tub of Nutella and a 1951 Bowman Mickey Mantle card that's autographed. And could you double bag that for me when I'm done?
I just want to know, when you leave, do they check the receipt?
Yeah. They ought to have armed guards taking you out when you take that thing out of the store.
Well, how do we even know this is Costco doing it? It's somebody doing it, and it's got a Costco branding on it, but Costco may not be storing, fulfilling, answering questions, doing anything about this other than using their name to draw eyeballs.
It's an excellent point, and they have a limited number. So the question is this marketing as much as anything else?
Well, is it powered by fanatics?
Isn't everything?
Well, I'm wondering if Michael Rubin has bought Costco.
Well, I mean, do you think he has a membership? That's the question. Do you think Michael Rubin's walking into Costco with his membership card?
If he were to walk in, he'd be walking in with an entourage. That dude gets around with his posse.
Yeah, I walk around with my kids. He walks around with his bodyguards. It's very similar. But I actually think, for stepping back a hair, and Dr. Beckett brought up Fanatics. Fanatics is now selling in retail stores that have never carried hobby products before, like lids, other stuff like that. Now you've got Costco, like you said, somebody's behind it. Costco is not going out there and sourcing sports memorabilia, and maybe they are. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think they are. When we talk about 10 timesing the hobby, is this almost getting in front of people because they sell base cards? I mean, they sell other low end sports products. Is this kind of a loss leader or a marketing leader?
It's a low cost probe. I mean, it's an opportunity to see if this sticks in 6 months. If nobody buys anything, they won't do it. But they're getting they're going to get some awareness. They're going. I don't know if people are going to pull the trigger. I'd rather buy from somebody I know. On the other hand, if I'm buying from a large entity that stands behind the purchase, if something was wrong, you would think Costco would stand behind it. Much like the eBay guarantee. There people are a little nervous about spending big bucks like a 51 mantle. That's not going to be cheap.
No, in fact, you have to sign in to see the price. I think I read in the article, it's just obviously in the six figures, but it's amazing. It made me think, Logan, where else should be selling sports memorabilia and cards? You think a Waffle House or can do autograph memorabilia? Or
Well, I was thinking more like either Chick-fil-A or AutoZone, actually. and Costco, you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to 1.1x the hobby.
1.1x. I mean, but these are real items. I mean,
it's free publicity for the hobby.
Yes.
It's additional publicity, eyeballs we wouldn't otherwise get. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of sales from it. If it is, then that'd be truly amazing, because it's just not. Because I think it would be an impulse buy, and I don't think people go into Costco for impulse buys or go to their website for impulse buys for six-figure rookie cards.
No, I think very rarely is that card an impulse buy, but if it is, good on somebody. Here's an interesting comment. I think this is still true, and I could be wrong. So if there's somebody with a Costco membership, let me know. Back in the 90s, Sam's Club sold the 91 and 92 wax box to the junk era. Maybe they will get it right this time for Costco. Well, that's an interesting thing. I mean, I remember that. I used to be able to go and buy, I forget if it was a half pallet or a pallet of wax. I wonder, just from distribution.
But this is the other end of the market.
Yes.
Or is it bringing people in or bringing them to the Costco website where eventually they will? That would be the Fanatics play.
It's a curiosity play right now. So we'll see if it has legs.
Okay. Yeah, I remember Costco had pallets of cards during the junk wax era. I still have the 89 Upper Deck set I begged my mom for. Rich Klein. Good morning, Rich.
Let me just say one thing before Rich jumps in. Basically, the problem in the early 90s was that there was a perception. It was actually a true perception that cards were everywhere. And that is what then people kind of woke up and said, wait a minute, if cards are everywhere, then the cards I have in my garage maybe aren't as valuable as I think. And so you've got to be judicious about it. Again, this is a 51 Bowman mantle. But if the perception is that cards are everywhere, that's a dangerous path that we've been down before. So they need to be, they just need to be smart about it. There's not a perception that 51 panels are everywhere. But we just got to be careful. The 10X needs to be gradual, not instantaneously.
Well, I think that's a key point. Logan, Rich says in the 1980s, big stores like Costco all sold wax, and that's how many dealers got their unopened product. I think that's what Dr. Beckett's talking about. If dealers are buying sealed wax at Costco, then we probably do have an issue in the hobby of overproduction again, or distribution issues. Real quick shout out to Costco ground beef. The only place to get reasonably priced beef in Korea. Good to know. And I wonder if your membership transfers. All right. Well, I wanted to touch on that because I think it's not about the 51 mantle to me. It's about what Dr. Beckett's talking about. What's their next step? Are they going to be carrying too much, lower end product, or are they going to keep this just a kind of a marketing idea? So I just thought that was interesting.
Well, I searched some other things on there too. So I searched, since I'm an NASCAR guy, I searched Richard Petty, and here's what it came up with. It came up with a Think Check Richard Petty commemorative edition automotive diagnostic tool for clearing trouble codes for $259.99.
There you go.
So I could get me an automotive tool. Richard Petty.
They really do have everything.
They really do.
Mike Petty, I don't believe he's going to be buying the mantle at Costco. So I think he says, great toilet paper, nothing else. Rex, good morning. Caught you at the beginning. Thanks for having us on, guys. Sports card shop. I've been there. It's fantastic. Houston, welcome. Hope we don't have a problem. Sorry. I'm overtired and all I got is dad jokes. It's been an interesting week for Topps. And Dr. Beckett, I'm curious on your perspective from a corporate manufacturing quality control conversation. Can Topps, they've had, what Logan, would we count? At least 3 major missteps, it appears, in the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
They had the double 1 of 1s, the 95 cards. They had the update where they changed the configuration from, I think, what they originally said they were going to sell. And then they just had the double numbered card for 2 different players in update, I believe. So, the question is, and there's a lot of people that want to put on a tinfoil hat, and a lot of people who are just saying, listen, when you have manufacturing at this scale and this much going on, you're going to have QC issues, especially if you have a change in management. But it shouldn't happen. Dr. Beck, I guess from your standpoint, is this just pure accidents?
Well, I mean, nobody wakes up in the mornings and thinks, "Hey, what mistake can I make today that'll mess things up?" So I think what hasn't been stressed enough is that there are 2 sets of quality control teams that need to have their act together. One is the card company, in developing the card, what it's going to be. There's an element of quality control there, and configuring the product. And then there's the actual execution by the printer, and in the distribution and the collating and the assembly and all that stuff. That's a whole nother team. Now maybe they talk to each other. The other problem is that the card company people have to be very knowledgeable about the hobby and the sport. The printing place, you almost don't want them to be knowledgeable about the sport and the players, because they just need to treat it as a product that needs to be handled properly, and they go through it. And so some things that happen like this are just, you've got 2 sets of quality control gauntlets, and occasionally there's a mistake. Like I said, I hated making any mistake, and I bet they hate making mistakes too. But Topps has tried in some creative ways to come up with solutions that I think people are saying is okay. Well, that's a good way to resolve this. So there've always been problems, and I don't know. I can't say there's never been an intentional error, but I don't think these are.
Logan, you and I were talking. What do you think about this? Is this a sign on Fanatics, or just a speed bump as they take over?
It could be a sign of things to come. I don't know. Like you said, that they've gotten so big. There's so many people involved. I mean, people make mistakes. I get that. I make mistakes all the time. I don't try to make mistakes, but they do happen. But it just seems like right now it's just amplified with all the things that they're doing, and it makes me wonder. I mean, are some of them make, on purpose to make you talk about tops and have tops out there in the forefront. I don't know.
Oh, that's what Silver Fox says. No tinfoil hat here. Just don't underestimate marketing, guerrilla marketing. That would be an interesting marketing play. Like Dr. Becky said, it would take a lot of coordination. Ziggy, hello. He says, "Are you opening update now or waiting for Chrome update? I'd rather chase the Chrome update rookie patches over Stadium Club. Applaud Tops Fanatics for the rookie patch." Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people were waiting to see what product it was going to go in. I think the rookie patch is a great idea. The other sports, I think, seem to be finding ways to follow it. Have you, Logan? You're not a rookie patch chaser necessarily, but do you like the idea of putting it in an update instead of a higher end product?
I think it's a good thing. It gives more people a chance to buy the product at a lower price point and get it, or possibly get them.
Guys, I just think I still,
Chrome
there's
update.
a lot of people that think that the Tops is like messing up on purpose, and I don't think they are. On the other hand, what they could do better is they could say, here's what we're doing now to make sure this doesn't happen again. They are talking about, here's what we're going to do to rectify this situation. But here's the way we're rethinking our quality control to make sure this doesn't happen again. Secondly, they're not saying, and this person was fired, because they messed up. They're not saying that. They're just saying, oh, we made a mistake. And by not saying how the mistake happened, which might be a competitive thing, they're leaving the door open for conspiracies that hey, nobody got fired. So maybe, because if somebody was grossly negligent, they really shouldn't be working there. This is an industry that really requires a real attention to detail, whether it's the printing, the whole thing. The cards are too expensive to have people that are not really extremely competent. So I just, that's what I think. I'm not hearing that people got fired. I'm not, or if you had a consultant that they're not going to be used anymore, or somebody that was doing the press checks fell asleep on the job. I'd like to know an explanation, and then I'd like to know, and here's what we're doing to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Well, following right up with that, the question for you, Dr. Beckett, is your view on, I guess this would be the top setting the floor on secondary market pricing with these bounties. And my only comment was I thought the bounties were set pretty high compared to the market value for the superfractors. When they had two of them, they put a bounty on one of them to try to get the one-of-ones back to one-of-ones. What's your thought on them setting a bounty?
They have won the narrative by calling it a floor. I think it's a ceiling.
Yeah.
I think this is the ceiling, and it's aspirational, and it makes people think, wow, I'm going to get it, and I'm going to immediately, cash it in. I'm hoping I can cash it in. So they've created some enthusiasm for a product that probably will do better because of that. And that, on the other hand, they've set aside they've kind of like escrowed a bunch of money to pay these bounties. But collectors, being as they are, not all these are going to be redeemed. And so Topps is setting aside this money. My guess is they're not going to have to pay out the full amount. And not only that, there's time limits. So if somebody, the other thing it does, guys, is it defeats the notion that I'm going to buy these cases or boxes, set them aside, and I'm going to sell them for a lot more money in 10 years. Maybe not, if there's a time limitation for this offer. So I think it's aspirational, and I think Topps is very interesting. To make it seem like a floor is, I would be shocked if in 10 years, even one of these players out of the whole group is exceeding their bounty.
Yeah. And the reality of it is, if it is, it'll probably be one of the lower bounties that surprises everybody. Logan, do you like the way Topps has responded to this?
I mean, I think it's fair. I mean, they've got two 1-of-1s out there. They've got to get rid of at least one of them out there. I think that's a good play to do that. Because I mean, if I have a 1-of-1, I want it to be a 1-of-1. I don't want it to be a 2-of-1 or whatever.
Yeah, how do you number that? How do you number that?
Yeah.
Silver Fox says coordination. Just hit print twice and then the buyback your product at a quote unquote premium, which is a fraction of the cost of the wax they sell from the product mistake in quotes again. So this is another idea on the theory that it's been done as a marketing or a promotional. But then Silver Fox also says worst case scenario, you still have a 1-of-2 super short print with a great story. There's some truth to that.
Is that a super short print?
I think I
Quad S's.
I went too fast on that. You are correct. That is a super short print. I might have put one.
There's 3 supers, but yeah.
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 My bifocals will be here soon. I guess, and this was brought up, and I want to go back to Rich's comment here. Rich, I'm sorry I passed this by. Getting back to the patch cards that they were put into the affordable product, and that it's been announced the checklist is on Cardboard Connection. Do you guys like the idea of having, the inserts known, or as opposed to being more random, and having a checklist of, something like the patches?
I think it's a good thing. I mean, with the NASCAR that we do, it's all announced. We know what's out there. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I never said that it was a floor. I'm not sure where that comment came from. Sorry.
That's what's been said.
Yeah, that was the other comment in there. That was not for me, and I'm not working on a sponsorship. But thank you, Ziggy. Dr. B is right. It's a ceiling or maybe a retractable roof if the offer expires. Travis, buying boxes in today's economy has become very challenging and harder to balance with the cost of living. I feel more people will leave the hobby than come in. Just facts. It probably is tougher to buy wax today and say it's a good investment. I mean, do either one of you buy sealed wax, or did you used to?
I still do. I've got a lot of sealed wax. I've got some 2023 Prism Racing sitting right here next to me. I'm probably not going to open it, and even if I do, it's going to be a while. And I'm not doing it for investment. I'm just doing it just to collect it.
How far back do you go?
Well, I go back all the way for racing. I go all the way back to the very beginning of 1988 Max. I've got several different boxes of those. I've got the first printing from the Myrtle Beach, and then I've got the second printing from Charlotte. Unopened boxes, 89. I've got a lot. It's fun to collect.
Dr. Beckett, do you ever collect sealed wax?
Not really. I mean, I'm a card collector. The packs is the vehicle. I even have had some older packs that I've opened, over the years. So if I buy something in a collection that's packs, I'll open them or I'll get rid of them. I really want to collect cards, and I'm not holding back any sealed boxes or cases.
You're not getting stuff BBC wrapped?
No.
Rex says Topps has already sold the majority of their product before the era was discovered. Shops, breakers, e-commerce dealers, and distributors bought most of it. They didn't need to boost sales. It's an interesting perspective on the timing. Although I will say influencing the secondary market drives up sales for everybody. Chris Ramsey, what does Topps do to the extra 1-on-1 buyback cards? Hopefully destroy it, not take it into the market. I would assume that it would be destroyed. Logan, can you imagine them doing anything else?
Yes.
No.
Yes. Why would they destroy cards? Last time that happened, there was a barge in the Hudson with a bunch of 52 Topps high numbers. I think they're going to emboss them, crimp them, make some kind of a overprint that signifies this is a historic card that we bought back and whether it's a redemption offer or a sweepstakes offer, I just can't think they're not gonna, because they're nice cards. That they've got to make them look definitively different than the other one, but they can do that.
Yes. Mike Petty says error card reverse negative 1 of 1 PSA 10. Yes. What do they call it? eBay
eBay
eBay.
101.
eBay 101, right? Silver Fox buyback, gold foil and balls with oops. That's what they should do.
Well, you're the Billy Ripken expert with the 14 different variations there. Fleer got very creative in how to deal with that, and so they didn't destroy them all. I don't think they doubled down on it.
I don't think it's a tinfoil hat. I believe that they didn't know what was on the card, but the second they found out, they took full advantage of it. And back then, the only way to make more money was really just to produce more. And I actually think their error card corrections were some of the first variations that were ever made. And I think that was part of the collectability was you had all these different variations that they tried to put on to cover up, and I think they did that intentionally. But that's my Bill Ripken tinfoil hat.
Well, that created a lot of hype back then. I can remember I worked at a place called the Computer Center, and my boss, the owner of the store, he read USA Today every day, and he runs back to the shop where I'm working. So I was technician. And he goes, look at this. And there was an article in USA Today about that Billy Ripken card and the error. He goes, I want one of these cards right now. Can you get me one? I said, and I didn't even know anything about it till then. I said, don't worry, I'll find you one. And we ended up finding several.
Yeah. And Rex points out there was the whiteout parallel, the blackout parallel, there was the black scribble, the white scribble. They even did a saw cut, but mysteriously the saw didn't cut through the part of the card that was the error on a lot of them. And that's one of the things that I always found suspicious was if you were to cut it, they theoretically cut it to take away the value, but they mysteriously left in the part that created the value. So I thought that card at the time generated as much buzz as almost any card I can remember. Outside of a triple logo man or something like that. Mike Petty said that I had 8 of those Bill Ripken cards and traded them all for $30,000 worth of cards today. Good for you. The Billy Ripken card is still worth 100. Even if that. Yes, if you can get $30,000 for Bill Ripken cards, that's a deal you should take. To say the least, Bill Ripken would take that deal. Mookie says, Dr. Beckett, I imagine the magazine spilled a lot of ink over the Bill Ripken card. How many articles did that spawn? I guess, what was that like for you during that period?
Well, to me, it's not family friendly. So we want a positive tone. And that was a little bit of a embarrassment for our industry, I think, when you're dealing with the perception that it's a kid's hobby, which it's adults, it's men and boys. But so I think a little disappointed in Fleer letting that sneak by, disappointed in the Players Association not catching it. But then after it's done, we had a lot of consternation of how to represent it in a family friendly way with our magazines without discussing it in ways that use bad words.
Did you just put it like an error designation on it and
called it Rick Face?
Rick Face. That's where the Rick Face came from. Was you guys? I did not know that.
Wow.
That's interesting. So let me ask you a quick question. Did the price change? Was that one of the more active ones? Do you remember in the time period?
I mean, the confusion was what we were calling Rick Face was not Rick Face. And
right.
So, and some of the variations are replicable. Some of the notching and the cutting things. and the whiteout, the blackout, all that stuff. I don't think those were touched up. I think those were pack pulled. But I think at one point maybe we had 4 variations. I don't think we certainly didn't have 14 listed in the magazine. Again, we weren't trying to we needed to cover it, but we weren't trying to draw so much attention to it that it was going to be the hobby really needed to move on. I mean, those people that are interested in that were going to go for it, and it was huge news for a couple months. People were
Mhm.
they were driving they were driving around town looking for boxes that had certain numbering on them that would be early early boxes.
Was that you, Logan?
Oh yes. My wife and I at the time, we had 7-Elevens here in Memphis back then. We don't have them now. I wish we did. But I was friends with the manager of the 7-Eleven, which was literally right behind the computer center where we worked. And he told me one day, he goes, "We've got some Fleer baseball cards coming in." And this was like right after my boss had shown me the article. So my wife and I decided, hey, we're going to split up. She's going to go to North Memphis. I'm going to go to South Memphis, and we're going to hit every 7-Eleven the night of the trucks. And we ended up with like 30 some odd boxes of those cards, and they were the very first printing. So, and of course, at the time we were setting up at shows and everything, and we sold so many of those boxes. And it's kind of like what they were saying earlier. I spent that money and bought some good things off of those boxes. So I actually did well with them. So it was a fun time. I can remember, there was no technology back then. Remember, I just had a pager at the time.
Yep.
So the only way my wife and I could communicate was she would stop at a phone booth or call from the 7-Eleven, hit my pager with the number. I'd call it back and then talk to her. And that's how we kind of knew where we were. So we didn't have our cell phones. We couldn't text, do any of that kind of thing. And then when my father-in-law found out about it, he was mad at me for letting her do that. And I said, whoa, hold on. It was your daughter's idea, not my idea. She wanted to do it. And so it was a fun time. I kind of miss those days in a way, but it was fun back then.
We have a publicist here. Rich Klein says, FYI, a little bit of self-servicing pub. At some point, you will hear Dr. Beckett mainly, and then me talk about the 1989 and the Ripken card on Netflix, Growing Up in the 80s episode, When It Breaks. So, Dr. Beckett, you will be covering this.
Well, we were part of this series, this video series, the kind of a program, a Netflix program this guy's doing. And so he interviewed Rich and me, and it was all things 1989 and the card, what was going on with the Upper Deck Griffey and stuff like that. So we covered a bunch of stuff, but it was fun. And frankly, Rich was carrying the heavy load. I think Rich is 1989 is like yesterday for Rich. It's like decades ago for me.
Yeah. He is a steel trap.
Yes.
Mike, I think we're all going to look for that. Do you have any idea when that's coming out? Since I know people are going to ask.
Rich might know, but a lot of these things, when they do these video programs, they are released when they get their final funding and their releases and all that stuff. So we've already taped it. We taped it up at the Beckett headquarters. Rich and I did with the crew.
Getting back to 7-Eleven, focus tilt photo. Here you go, Logan. I got a lead for you here. I got a 7-Eleven all over the place in Korea. One is 100 yards from my door.
Wow, that's nice.
So there you go.
That's one of the things I like about when I go to Chicago. Of course, there's 7-Elevens there, and one of the very first things I do besides buying White Castles is getting a Coke Slurpee. So those are my two favorite things when I go to Chicago, besides Gibson's, of course.
Well, I wasn't going to bring it up, but since I have one walking distance from me as well. So
wow.
When you come to Baltimore to visit, I'll take you to 7-Eleven. That'll be our big tour.
Yeah. What was it that Napoleon Dynamite said? Lucky.
Right. Off topic. There is no off topic. We're here for the people. Why doesn't the National ever release attendance numbers? Isn't this a great way to get a barometer on whether the hobby is growing year over year? Dr. Beckett, I'll turn that one to you.
I think that if you go all the way back, it just I guess they just felt that there'd be too much comparison and unfavorably. And if ever it went down one year from the year before, they'd either blame the promoter or the location. They weren't blaming the weather, but they just it's it's kind of like cards. People say, "I wish we knew how many cards were produced of a certain product." But be careful what you wish for, because then people are going to say, "Well, I'm not interested in this product because the print run's too high." When really it depends on demand as much as it depends on supply. And so same thing with the Nationals. I think they just want to put the focus on, hey, next year we hope to be bigger and better. In fact, in
My,
the old days, it wasn't even to be bigger and better because there were some lean years. In fact, the Atlanta National, one of them was really not very good at all. And so, but the people have forgotten. And if we knew the exact attendance there, people would just keep throwing that in your face that you can't have a national in Atlanta because 30 years ago they had low attendance. And I mean low attendance. And you just couldn't know the exact number.
as a follow up here, clean cheap shots, even if they don't release the number, don't you think they know what the attendance number is? And I would say absolutely.
They know what
Mhm.
the dollars are.
Yeah.
There's so
And
much
then,
double counting, and I don't think there's
well,
uh,
there's tickets sold.
tickets, the swapping or, I think mainly it's, they're getting a number of VIPs and daily admissions, and then dealers get all kinds of, and corporates get passes, extra passes, and exhibitor badges and things like that. So I think it's hard to get an exact count, but I bet they have an exact count of the money they took in.
Yeah. And I think you're 100% right on that. Rich Klein says Ray Schulte said when he was on Sports Card Live with Jeremy Lee that they had over 100,000. And I was going to bring this up. I think since Anaheim, when that was the quote unquote record, they've always just spoken general terms since then. I think that because to your point, Dr. Beckett, once you have the record, if you don't set it every year, it sounds like disappointment.
Well, for example, Cleveland this next year, I'm thinking it probably will be slightly smaller than Chicago. Now, I hope it's not, but the room is going to be smaller. There are going to be less booths there, and so and it's not the same proximity. It's closer to the East Coast, but it's not quite as easy, and the restaurants aren't real close by. So, to me, Cleveland is not as good a location, and yet I want the focus to be on let's hope that Cleveland is a fabulous show, and I think it will be. But if it's only 97,000 people coming next year,
right.
is it really bad? Because I think they had 125 this past year. I think they had well over 100,000.
Cleveland's national could be fire. Marshall shut the crowd out if it's packed out. Listen, I hope it's a successful national. I hope the aisles aren't too crowded to walk around. So whatever that means, that's the number I want.
The building is fireproof. I just want to go on the record saying it's like a hangar, a bomb shelter. There's nothing that burns. Oh, wait a minute, there's cards in there.
Ruh-roh.
But if you have a fire in there, what are they going to do? Bring in hoses and spray it down? I mean, that's just as bad. So, no fire. But again,
Yeah.
there's so much combustible there. It's like a bomb shelter practically, or an airport hangar. It's a concrete bunker.
And Chris Ramsey saying too many people in there.
Okay, so no smoking. No smoking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here you go, Dr. Beckett. This one's for you. Lower attendance means more elbow room at the dollar boxes.
Not necessarily.
It depends who's not showing.
Right.
Not only that, because everybody gets a booth. You have a certain number of square feet, and then there's an aisle in front. And some of the dollar box people do horseshoe. They people are not on the outside of their table; they're coming into the inner sanctum and all that. But it can get really crowded if somebody's got a good deal. And on the second or third day, they might chop their prices further, and then you'd think, oh, it's played out. Nope. So lower attendance. there's high end collectors and there's more moderate collectors, and there's a lot more moderate collectors than there are high end collectors.
My local card shop told me that right now, and they're opening a much larger store, so they're bringing in a lot of inventory. That their sales, they're shooting for everything under $250. So the moderate,
the most action is.
yeah. So to your point, it's which buyers don't show, not just a volume. Hopefully they don't cut out the kids, and hopefully that is where it grows. Mookie says Dr. Beckett's Dollar Box Etiquette is an episode I'd watch. That's a good question. What is good etiquette at the dollar boxes?
Well, stay tuned. Rich and I will discuss that in a future episode, because that is something. Mookie, excellent suggestion. I think
there Rich, you go, Mookie.
Absolutely fill up 15 minutes with dollar box etiquette and also inappropriate behavior.
If you're dressed for roller derby, it's probably not a good sign.
Well, if you're coming from roller derby,
right? Rex at his store says $1 to $20 raw cards move well here. Rex, I guess my question for you is, how hard is it to turn over inventory and keep those priced and out versus selling other stuff? How do you divide that up? Logan, when you go to a card shop, are you looking for singles, wax? What are you looking for in a good card shop?
I'm looking for both. When I go to my LCS, of course, there's not a lot of NASCAR releases. So, every time there is one, I go there and I usually buy a box, and sometimes I'll rip it there. Sometimes I'll come home and rip it. But I do go looking for singles. And, it's not just all about NASCAR for me. I'm also looking for nice, older baseball cards that I like, that are raw, that may grade well, things like that. So, yeah. And then, of course, I always get my supplies from him because, I want to spend my money locally. He's a friend of mine. I've known this guy for well over 30 years, probably getting close to 40, I would think. And I want to spend my money with him. He may be a little bit higher, but I do buy my supplies there. He also sells other things like, hats and jerseys and things like that. And, I'll buy Christmas gifts for people there. So, I do try to spend my money with him as much as possible, and I do buy a lot of stuff, a lot of different things as well.
Rex responding to the $1 to $20 raw cards, he says he does need to get them consistently, buy and trade to keep those cards in stock. I would imagine. Dollar box etiquette is the same as the gym. You wait your turn, you limit your time to a reasonable amount, and you clean up after you use the equipment. That's there you go, Dr. Beckett. There's your whole episode. We're done.
Use deodorant.
Yes, use deodorant. And this one I think is already partially answered. And does Dr. Beckett ever think that Beckett magazines will be highly collected and graded one day? And I think some of them already have. Is that correct?
I hope so. No, I don't really have very many, but I have a few. And the number one, issues are sought after, especially baseball. Some of them slabbed, yeah.
How often do you get asked to autograph the magazines?
Oh, it's a few at each big show. At the national, I have some people at the local shows. Yeah, some people bring them.
Very good. Is it usually the first issues? Because I would
mostly.
I know, yeah,
mostly. Or favorite players. I mean, there'll be, and I just think if I'm signing it, I need to not sign it in a way that obliterates Michael Jordan. I'm trying to sign up, maybe on top where it's my name instead of messing around. They can get Michael to sign on his chest.
Yeah, I need to bring this the next time I come to Dallas and get you to sign it, Dr. B.
Bring it. Where would I'll sign that. I have to sign that in an interesting color.
Yes, you will.
Yeah.
That's glossy. You need a good marker on that one.
Well, a lot of times I'll sign on the inside.
Yeah, you sign on the inside.
Front page. The front is like that.
Well, Logan, I'll follow up with you on this question. Do you think the cards will hold their value more than memorabilia?
I think memorabilia is still an untapped, not an untapped, undervalued market is what I would say, because when you have a memorabilia card that's worth more than the actual game used jersey, there's something weird about that to me. If I'm going to spend that kind of money, I would much rather have the whole jersey that's game used versus a little piece of patch or swatch on a card. So I think memorabilia is still undervalued. I mean, you can see, look, I like memorabilia. You can see all the stuff around me. It's more than just cards for me. Cards are my main focus, but I do love memorabilia, and when I can find a good deal on it, I do buy it.
Well,
Doctor,
yeah, I just think the memorabilia that the high end of memorabilia is arguably overpriced. That you've got a game used jersey for a player, and one of them is photo matched and the other one isn't. There's 1,000% difference sometimes, and so I'd rather have the one that has not been photo matched. It's real. The player wore it. It's from the season, but I don't know exactly what game. I don't know that it was in the finals or the World Series or something like that. And I'd be okay with that because I think there's some real exposure to paying huge bucks for memorabilia, kind of like paying huge bucks for cards that are worth more than the jersey that the swatch came from.
Rex commenting on the dollar box. It's also helpful if you put the cards back the way you found them. That sounds like an LCS owner. Um, that, I have children that definitely wears. Wait, I want to. Sorry, it's moving faster than I click. I like my game worn stuff photoshopped. So there's
Ooh.
Photo matched or photoshopped.
right, exactly. Um,
It's going both ways sometimes.
especially with the Michael Jordan jersey, you never know.
Ooh.
Here's a question for you, Dr. Beckett. Do you show up to all the Dallas card shows?
I try to.
Okay.
I can't necessarily be there every day, but I'll be there most of the days this next one coming up. I might miss the first day because I've got a family. I've got a date with my wife. So that takes precedence
It's better than a day with somebody else, I guess.
for sure.
Um, Rex answering about the memorabilia versus cards. He says at his shop they see a distinct difference between memorabilia customers and card customers. It's interesting. Many card buyers look to make money on the cards. Most memorabilia buyers collect and display their items. Uh, well, Logan, I was about to say, can you relate to that at all?
I certainly can. The whole upstairs of my house here is it's got stuff that I want to display because what to me, what's the use of collecting it if you cannot view it, enjoy it, and look at it every day? And that's the way I look at it. If it's in a box somewhere, it just doesn't give me that kind of enjoyment that I want. You know, the thrill of collecting it and the thrill of, because I'm sitting here looking at all this stuff. Um, it's beyond words for me. I just love looking at it, and it's like I said, why else would I collect it if I can't look at it?
And following up on that, Maryland sports cards, the thing cards have going for them over memorabilia is where I can look through 10,000 cards and it all fits on an 8-foot table. Memorabilia, you get framed 4 jerseys and you're done. Well, all you need is Logan's room. So it's just help yourself to Logan's room and you can put it up. But it is an interesting contrast. Dr. Beckett has clearly gone with displaying the cards and Logan with the memorabilia. So we've got a little, sharks and the jets. There's 2 ways to go here. College memorabilia is also in high demand, whereas college cards are less desirable. That's an interesting one. Dr. Beckett, what's your thought on the college memorabilia? Is that just a regional sports fandom?
I think Rex is exactly right. He's got his own focus group every day in his more than one shop now. He's got 2. So I don't disagree with that at all, Rex. But that may not always be the case when you've got all this Bowman U stuff and NIL stuff. This thinking that cards that are not in the pro uniforms or that may not always be less desirable. It may be that people really want pre-rookie cards. Now they've not, I mean, minor league cards, some of them are okay, but college cards for a guy that was great in college and then went on to a long career, to think that the college cards from the earliest cards that the player has are going to be less desirable, that may not always hold true. It does now, but it may not always be so. Victor Wembanyama, Luca, guys that have European cards or early cards before they in their European jerseys, or they're not in their NBA stuff. He hadn't even played a real game yet. That could flip, guys. That could flip. It could be that people want their earliest card. And if they do, they'll want college cards. And so it's not the case now, but it could change or move closer to parity.
I'll speak from my background for a second. I used to do licensing of college products for a stationery company, actually. And I will tell you, specifically SEC, Southeast, some of these areas, the dollars that go behind the college teams and the college products is pretty significant for certain schools. Now, I think there's something like 300 Division I schools, and that's certainly a small percentage that would support. But there are some schools that I think people would buy it for the school, but I think that's a small percentage.
Yeah, but the non-Power 5 schools that have smaller print runs, and then somebody hits it big from, say, Iowa State, you're liable to see an explosion there. You just don't know.
Well, there's your value created. Yeah. Mad City Brew says, I still have all my Beckett magazines from the 80s and 90s and love to look at the price of cards back in the day. Yeah, I feel mixed when I look at cards prices back in the day. I feel regret for not buying them all, and and proud to see where the hobby's moved. Maryland sports cards or MD sports cards, absolutely. That's because there's nothing in Alabama or Mississippi besides college football. I don't know. Logan, college sports in Nashville, in different areas, in Memphis, how do they compare to pro sports as far as fandom and dollars?
Well, the fandom is huge, especially I'll give you an example real quick. My brother-in-law is a season ticket holder for Alabama. He has 4 season tickets that he buys every year. Plus, he pays the extra money that they want for having the right to have those tickets. But he's not a collector, but he does like to display things in his little man cave he's got down because he lives in Alabama. And talking about memorabilia, he's got some footballs, and he's got some artist prints, and he's got a jersey or two, and he's got some pennants and a few things. He doesn't really collect them. He just wants them for his man cave, for his Alabama man cave. So he has no cards at all, 0 cards. It's all just memorabilia. So, Rex is right. There is a huge market for the memorabilia side of, college, sports, especially football. But, for me, I've got a lot of SEC teams close to me. I've got Nashville, I've got Vanderbilt, I've got Mississippi State, South, and then Alabama's not that far away. So, I'm kind of close to the SEC. I like SEC football. Today, I can't wait for the games today. But yeah, there's a lot of because we do have the Grizzlies here, but in Ja, that whole story that's yet to play out. But there is some big fandom here for college sports. Even the University of Memphis over the last 6-8 years has really, their program has really done well. So, in fact, I watched the game last night on ESPN.
Didn't they have Penny Hardaway as their coach?
Yes, we have Penny Hardaway at the U of M for basketball.
Yeah, that made me feel old when he got a head coaching job.
I've got his rookie card.
Was it college or NBA?
NBA.
All right, guys. Anybody have any cards, anything that pickups or anything lately, or on your hobby
Um,
agenda this weekend, Logan? What you got?
Let me see here. I got. Oh, I've got this one I want to show. I just think because I'm a big Red Machine fan from back in the '70s, and you guys know me. I collect. I have my sophomoric slab showcase where I have all my funny cards on PSA. I picked this one up, and it's a very strange card. It's from Stadium Club with Johnny Bench holding balloons. So I don't know if he's Pennywise the clown or what's going on there. It's really kind of a weird card, but I had to pick it up just because of his weirdness.
And he's wearing a tie.
And he's wearing a tie. Yeah, it's just a strange card, and I can't believe he approved that image. But very very funny, very weird.
That is a funny card. I wanted to show two. One, I wanted to show the family friendly version because I happen to have it next to me. There's the black box if nobody's ever seen it. And that was the correction. So that is the family friendly version that I use when I show that card. And after years, I finally found a decently centered Jerry Rice rookie in an SGC 7, which I might try to cross over. We'll see. But I'm thrilled with this 7. So, this is something for my PC that I've wanted forever. I think there's very few guys that you talk about best at their position, and the conversation's almost open and shut. I always think those are the guys I like to go after. And if you say best wide receiver ever, it's usually Jerry Rice, and then who's after that.
Do you think that black box Billy Ripken is the easiest
of all the variations? Yes. Like you said earlier, unfortunately, the original one is so overproduced.
You'd think that this is what troubles me is that they find out they have a PR problem and they immediately do something, but they don't immediately do 13 things. I think they immediately put a black box on it.
Yeah.
And then they either changed their mind or thought, let's try a white box. I mean, why would they do that? Why wouldn't they just say, we've got the Rick face and we've got the black box and it's done?
The story I heard was there was more than one printer.
I think that's possible.
And they each chose their own way to solve the problem.
I don't think there were 13 printers, though. So
I agree with you, but I think that's how you got the original black box and the original black scribble. And then everything after that, I think they realized they were making money. And, let's do a white box and a white scribble, because I don't think that's a coincidence. Well, Rich Klein's correcting me before we get out of here. I will always take a correction. The black box Ripken was the last one issued, and in the factory sets, which is the only Fleer sold directly to the hobby. Yes, it's also the most common by far of the variations. So, Chris Ramsey, thank you, and thank you to everybody in the chat room. You guys doing anything this weekend? Or what do you got there, Logan?
Got a Bob Barker card from 2011 Topps American Pie.
All right.
And it's so shiny. But I was always still am a big Price is Right fan, especially when I was a kid. When you're homesick, you're always looking forward to watching The Price is Right. That was always a big thing for me. And it's sad that he passed away, but he almost made it to 100. So love Bob Barker for sure.
Well, love him, and if you would have guessed 100, you would have won because you didn't go over.
That's right.
So. All right, guys. Well, thank you, Dr. Beckett. Always a pleasure.
Thanks,
Logan.
Dan.
Always a pleasure. To everybody in the chat room, thanks for a great chat today. And make sure you check out the podcast on Monday. And yeah, I'm getting corrected on the Randy Moss, but I'll stick with my Jerry Rice since it came in the mail yesterday. Let's not ruin my glee just yet. So on that note, we'll get out of here. Thank you very much. You guys have a great weekend.